Hi, Investor Nation and Tasty Nation. It's been quite a while since I've appeared in one of my videos, but today being the last day of the year, 2022, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to go through my account and look at my results for the year. So here I am in my trading platform, still using Interactive Brokers, unfortunately, as we wait for Tastyworks to come to Canada. And if I just go up here to Account, click on Activity and go Activity Statement, it will open up in my browser and it'll look something like this. So to do this quickly, I would just go to Realized Summary. I'll just run that by clicking this right arrow here. And I want to do year to date, and I want to do a PDF to start with, and then just run. Your report is being generated. Then it shows up here on the list. And I just click the right arrow to download that. So then I open my PDF that I just downloaded, and the PDF is a whopping 319 pages long. So there's no way I would ever go through all this. But one of the things I wanted to look at is to see some of the fees I paid this year and any interest that I might have accrued or paid. So I think this is an important thing to look at each year and just make sure you're not paying any interest. And I'll show you why a little bit later. So all the numbers here are positive. So there's no money being borrowed. I've got some Canadian dollars, Great British Pound, and US dollars, all positive, except for a tiny little negative number there for USD. So I won't worry about that. For most people, that's all you would do is just look at that statement. I want to dig a little bit deeper and start processing all those lines of data in a spreadsheet. So I realized that one clue that you might be paying interest on currency conversions in your account is you can go up to account window. If you have any negative balances here, so it just means that you've been trading instruments back and forth in different currencies. And by doing that over the year, I somehow ended up with negative US dollars here. That means I'm actually paying interest. So the way to correct that is you just have to convert some currency. In my case, I have a whole bunch of Canadian dollars. I just have to convert some of those to US dollars to make that balance positive again. So I'm going to show that in a different video, and I'm going to call it something like how to convert currencies in Interactive Brokers. It's really simple. All you do, you just have a ticker here of what currencies you want to convert. For example, USD.CAD. And if you want to buy US dollars with Canadian dollars, you just right click and go buy. So if I want 5,000 US dollars, I just put in 5K here, use the current exchange rate. I can check my margin performance, and you can see it's costing me 6,700 Canadian dollars to buy 5,000 US dollars. Basically, this gives you the best interest rate you could possibly get. It's what's trading right now, and it's only charging me a couple of dollars commission. So I've heard from other friends in Canada that Interactive Brokers is pretty much the best way to convert currencies anywhere in Canada. So you would just submit that order, and if the markets were open, it would fill automatically, but you can see my order is actually sitting on the chart here until the market's open. And if I lift this dotted line right here, I can see there's my order. And maybe if I just adjust my price here, I can get it to fill. Or actually, I can just go right on the chart here and use the scroll wheel on my mouse to adjust the price a little bit and just click T to transmit. Order filled. And my order filled. At least now I don't have to worry about any interest being paid. And if I go to account window, now I can see all my currencies are in the positive, so I'm not going to be charged any interest at all. So that's great. I'll probably put that into its own video just so it's easily searchable on YouTube if anyone has this problem in the future. But I've been doing this for 10 years and I just learned this today. So it just goes to show you that you can never stop learning when it comes to the markets and trading. So I will do a separate video about that. But for now, let's look at my overall performance for the year. So back to account management, the other thing I can do is I can look at my home here and see my P&L, my year-to-date P&L. So did not have a great year. I'm down about 12.5% on the year. Not my best year for sure, but I'm pretty confident. Like I mentioned in a video I showed previous this year, it's tagged right to my homepage here. It's called How to Recover When the Market Kicks Your Ass. I mentioned a lot of things I learned this year doing my trading, and I'm super confident that going into next year, 2023, I'm going to be able to turn this around. I've already recovered quite a bit since October, as you can see. The main reason for that is volatility spiked earlier in the year, and volatility has been coming down towards the end of the year, so which is the exact scenario I love for my style of trading, which is selling premium. Now, what if I was to compare that to what the actual market did? So I'm down 12.5%. What did the market actually do? So I like to use this website here. Just go to finance.google.ca or .com, depending which country you're in. Right at the top of the page, we've got 5 indices. We've got the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell, and the TSX, that's the Canadian market. If we click on the S&P 500, and click year to date on that one, we can see the S&P 500 is down 20% on the year. So if S&P is down 20%, I'm down only 12.5. Like I said, I'm still not happy with that, but I'm confident that I'll make that back in the next year. If you compare that, say, to the Russell and go year to date, the Russell's down 22.5% this year. I usually call the S&P 500 the market, and the Russell is also the market. They're just two slightly different indices, weighted in slightly different ways. And basically, whichever market you played this year, it's going to be down. And you're going to be down unless you happen to be short the market, which, as we know, is very, very hard to time those types of trades. But keep an eye out for a future video where I'm going to show a video exclusively on the Russell 2000 and how a beginner trader beat the market using options. So look out for that in the next few weeks. So recall I did a video called How to Track Your Trades with IBKR. So have a look at that if you've never done this before. In that video, I actually got a friend to do the instructions for that. I never did it myself. And the reason is because there would be thousands and thousands of lines, and it's really not worth my time to go through all that. But I found a slightly different way of doing it, which I can show you today. So maybe look at that video first, then come and see this one. You'll see the differences in what I'm doing. So I realized you have to go to this thing called Flex Queries. And I tried it a few different ways, and I think I found the way that works best for me. If I go to info here, it shows you all the settings I used. But the most important thing I'm looking at here is actually underlying symbol, and proceeds would be my P&L. I'll show you how I did this. I'll make a new flex query just by hitting the plus sign here to create. I'll call it something else like my trades 2. Click on trade confirmation here and symbol summary. Now I realized I actually want to unclick execution because it doubles up some of the lines when I do that. It took me a while to figure that out. And then I just want to click symbol, underlying symbol, and proceeds. If there was something that said P&L here, I would do that, or realize P&L, but I didn't see that on the list. And then just save. Models, I don't know what that means, so I'll just click optional. Format, comma separated value, and I kept everything else as the default setting. Then down at the bottom, just click continue. So then I create that. Okay. So there's my trades 2 query, and then I just click the right arrow to run it. So because this is the last day of the year, I'm just going to click year to date, but you could also do custom date range or whatever you want here. It's already set to CSV, run that, and it automatically downloaded the file. So I'm going to go to my spreadsheet software and go and import that. So here I am in Microsoft Office. You could also use Google Sheets if you like. So I'm going to go to File, Import, and comma separated file, and then navigate to the file I just downloaded, which is this one here, my trades 2. Get the data delimited, and it's comma separated. I don't think I need tabs in here. I don't think there's any tabs anyway. And then just finish. Okay. So there's my summary of my symbols I traded this year. The first bunch here look like they are stocks, and then we get into all my options trades. What I'm going to do is freeze the top row so that it keeps my headings up there. So just symbol, underlying symbol, and proceeds. And you can see there's a huge long list here. It goes down to row number 5,220. So this is an enormous file with tons of data. And this is not even all my trades. This is just a summary of all the symbols. What I noticed was when I was scrolling down here, though, is most of these are actually SPX. So the symbol actually changes from day to day when you do 0DT options in SPX, but the underlying symbol stays the same. So it broke these all apart into separate entities, even though I want to group them all together. So I just have to sum up all these manually to get a total for all my SPX. So I would say the majority of these 5,000 rows are just SPX. And what I'll do is I'll start from the top. Now, I'm not too concerned about my stock trades. Those might have been assignments, and then I close them after being assigned or whatever. And I'll start with the first options one. I'll make another column called totals here, and then start at the first option trade, which is AA Alcoa. So I'll type equals sum, open bracket, and I'll sum up just the AA rows. So I got minus 47. Same thing with Apple, equals sum, and I'm clicking and dragging the mouse, close bracket. So I'm getting all those 4 lines, minus 47 for Apple. Same thing for AG, which I believe is First Majestic Silver. These ones, I did a whole bunch of them. Close bracket, enter. So that one I had a positive return on the year. These two I had a slightly negative return. And I can just keep doing this for all the symbols. There's AMD, and it will probably take me like an hour or more to go through all this. So I won't show them all, but basically you get the idea here. I'm just summing everything that has the same underlying symbol, and I'm ignoring the symbol column. So there's Amazon, up nicely on Amazon for the year, and ARK 305. Wow, that was my best one so far. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to go off camera for this part, finish up this spreadsheet, and maybe I'll do like a summary page or something just to show how I did for the year, where I did well, where I didn't do so well. And maybe that will help direct me to come up with a better plan for 2023. And oh, also, by the way, I realized as I started going through this, what I could have done was selected all the data from row 2 down to the bottom and sorted it. So I click on the data tab, sort, and if I want to sort it by column B, which is the underlying symbol, this will get me closer to what I want, because now it'll mix my stock trades in with the options trades. And when I do the sums that way, I think that will be a better representation of whether I ended the year up or down on that underlying. And also it'll group my futures a little bit better here. So here I've got some treasury futures. So I'll go ahead and do that and come up with a summary. Okay, so I have some results that took me quite a while. It was about 2 hours of crunching numbers, and I took just the top biggest winners and the biggest losers, and I left out a lot of the underlyings that I couldn't fit on this page. But I think this gives a nice little indication of what I did this year and what worked and what didn't. So I'll start with the biggest winner was SPX by far. That was my 0DTE trade. So I talked all about that one in my video called 100 days of SPX 0DTE iron condors. And I am planning to do a follow-up video on that very soon, probably in the next few weeks. That was my most popular video by far. I guess people are really into this 0DTE. Okay, on to the biggest loser was /CL, which is the oil futures. So I remember this. I was selling premium in oil earlier in the year, and I got hit on the call side. We had a crazy outlier move to the upside, and my call got breached, and that was really, really hard to recover from and manage. And I realized, of course, trading oil futures naked is probably not a good idea for me. Later in the year, they came up with this micro CL. So you can see, actually, by comparison, I had a positive year in micro oil and a negative year in regular oil. So maybe this is a good indication that I should stay away from trading oil futures naked and stick with the micro oil. I think one of the reasons why I do better with the smaller version of that is because you don't have to worry as much when one of your strikes gets tested, and you're less likely to panic if it's a smaller amount of money. Micro CL is 1/10 the size of regular CL. Okay, further going down the list, /ZN is the 10-year notes. This was actually a pairs trade between ZN and ZT. So although I ended up losing on ZT, which is the 2-year treasuries, I ended up winning on ZN, which is the 10-year treasuries. So this was actually a yield curve trade that I talked about in other videos. I wanted to get long ZT, which is short 2-year yields, and I wanted to get short ZN, which means I was long 10-year yields. It's a little confusing, and thankfully we do have the small exchange to do this, but I did better trading the actual futures here than using the small exchange products, because I actually sold premium at the same time I did this. So I was selling the put side in ZT and the call side in ZN as a pairs trade. And I had to be pretty careful to manage my deltas really well, but it ended up working in the end, and I'm happy with the result on that. So here are some of my yield curve videos. The super steepener trade, had a bet on interest rates, and yield curve very flat, time to make a trade. So I was leaning into a steepener pretty much all year. It didn't work very well with the small exchange products, but it actually worked in my case, selling premium at the same time that I was betting on a steepening yield curve. Yield curve is still inverted, so I'm going to hold this and definitely keep my steepener trade on for 2023. My next nice winner was natural gas. I always trade natural gas to find risk. Natural gas has had crazy high volatility this year, and I think that's one of the reasons that I ended up with a positive P&L. Also did really well in the Aussie dollar 6A, and I traded Aussie dollar naked. ZB, I was also short premium, but I tend to define my risk when I trade ZB. That's the 30-year treasuries. ES, just short premium again. The short premium trade in ES actually worked pretty well this year, especially for the second half of the year or the last 3 quarters of the year. SVXY, when there was a spike in volatility, I went long SVXY. I just bought 100 shares, and then I kept selling premium against those shares. So that's a covered call. So just holding a covered call and keep rolling the call throughout the year actually worked pretty well in SVXY, because of course volatility came down after it spiked earlier in the year. So then the micro oil I mentioned, SLV, I did pretty well too. I think I was just short premium and leaning long SLV this year. Okay, some of my other losers. My biggest individual company was Peloton. So I think that was a lesson to me to just stay away from these individual companies. And I did mention more about that in my video called What to Do When the Market Kicks Your Ass. That's the one I pinned right to my page. That one I put a lot of work in, so that's why I like to pin it to my page. Hopefully I get a few more views out of it. Now 6J, that's the Japanese yen. Didn't do so well in that, but I recovered quite a bit later in the year. Earlier in the year, was doing really poorly, was down huge on that, and thankfully it finally came back later in the year, but I just couldn't quite break even. Same with the euro, just selling premium didn't work so well this year, similar to the Japanese yen. There was just too many outlier moves to the downside. So same like Japanese yen, there was outlier moves to the downside. Robinhood, another one of my poor performing companies, and Riot and BITO, those are both Bitcoin related stocks. Riot is a company and BITO is the ETF. I did a video called BITO and VXX drag, contango versus backwardation, where I talked all about that. Okay, the last one on my list here for biggest loser is MSauce. That's a marijuana stock ETF. I think that's the ETF with US stocks, whereas MJ is the one with more Canadian stocks. I've traded both MJ and MSauce in the past. Unfortunately, it did not do well this year. It went straight down like a lot of these other individual companies. So even though MSauce is an ETF, it's made up of a bunch of companies. Using an ETF didn't save me in this case. That whole sector went down, unfortunately. So I think these results kind of speak for themselves. You can take what you want from these results. Hopefully you learned something on how to tabulate your data using Interactive Brokers. It was a painful process, so hopefully I won't have to do that for too much longer. I think going forward in 2023, my plan is to just stick with the futures and ETFs and indices. I think I'll stay away from the individual companies. And of course, I'm going to trade micro CL instead of regular CL. Other than that, I think I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. My premium selling for the most part worked really well this year, aside from some of these outlier moves, which gave me an overall negative year. I'm very confident in 2023 that I'm going to make that back and more, because we know volatility is mean reverting. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Let me know in the comments, how did you do this year in 2022? Did you have a positive year or a negative year? What worked well for you and what didn't work for you? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.